The National Museum was actually featured in the Bond movie Casino Royale, and that's the hotel where Bond stays. This is also where the uprisings and the Velvet Revolution took place at Wenceslas Square. And nowadays this is where all the marches and demonstrations take place in the city. And if you keep walking along the main retail street past New Yorker, you'll get to Palladium Mall. Maybe it's pronounced Palladium Mall, I'm not sure. But in this mall, there's a lot of different shops. It's a lot bigger than it looks from the outside. It's a multi-level shopping mall. So if the weather's bad, then I recommend going inside. Side streets are a lot less busy and there's always people around. The footfall's always good. Prague 1 is the main tourist area. It can get extremely busy and crowded in certain areas, especially during the peak season. It's worth stopping by the Church of Our Lady Before Tin. You'll get there by walking through the winding roads of the old town. There's mainly going to be tourists by the square, but you can find local Prague girls milling around because they sometimes come to this area as well. I recommend buying a ticket to get to the top of the Town Hall Tower, which is opposite the church. From up there you'll get a stunning 360 view of the whole city. You'll see Prague Castle in the distance. If you want to find very classy, high-value women with a particular taste in fashion, then head over to the retail area that is closest to the Jewish cemetery. It's on the way to the Jewish cemetery. And here you'll find some fairly posh shops. There are a lot of good bars in Prague, and especially in Prague 1. They're all concentrated within the same area, close to each other. I found the bar Kenton's New York bar particularly good. It has a nice atmosphere for a date, so I went there for a date with a girl. The first time I went there twice. The first time I went with John Smith. And you've also got the James Dean bar close by, which has an American 50s interior and loads of pictures of James Dean, obviously. But the staff are beautiful there, and they wear these rather nice air hostess style hats and skirts. Well worth checking out as well. You could also cross to the other side of the river to where there are parks and art galleries and cafes. This is also where the castle is, but it can get very busy with lots of tourists with the same idea. But to get to the other side of the river, I would actually recommend taking another route and crossing another bridge. So don't cross the Charles Bridge. You could cross the Charles Bridge early in the morning or late at night to avoid the crowds. Personally, I highly recommend approaching in Prague 2 and maybe other areas as well, because there's always a lot of local Czech girls who just walk around and do their everyday things. If you want to see a slightly more bohemian, artistic and alternative side of Prague, then head over to Prague 7. And I recommend crossing the Stavnice Island, which has a nice pedestrian bridge that is just for pedestrians, and that'll give you some nice views of the river and take you straight into the area. You could also take the metro via Florence, and that'll take you to Prague 7 as well. John Smith and I took the pedestrian bridge on our way back from Prague 7, so these shots are in reverse order. This is a good example of the fact that you really can approach girls anywhere. There are several alternative bars and clubs in Prague 7. They're slightly spread out though, so you're going to have to walk between them to get to each one. So John Smith and I checked out Cross Club, which is a 3-story building with a steampunk style, and they play electronic music, and they've got some art and things like this that make it a bit alternative. John Smith and I went to the Docks Modern Art Gallery, where you'll actually find a lot of cute girls, and they like to go up to the terrace where there's a bar and a cafe. There'll be a lot of girls just milling around, and it would be very easy to approach them, strike up a conversation. So if you like that kind of thing, then check out Docks as well. So what are the pros of Prague? First of all, there are people out all the time. No matter what hour of the day it is, there will be people on the street. So even on Sundays at, say, 1 a.m, you'll actually find people out. Prague is a very walkable city. We didn't actually use a metro pass throughout the whole time we were there, so we just relied on doing a lot of walking. The bars are open until very late, so this is obviously good in terms of logistics, and it doesn't really matter what day of the week it is. It's got that kind of thing going on. So you could do dates on a Sunday and it would be fine actually. And the flights to Prague, from most places, or at least a lot of places, they'll be cheap. The city itself is affordable. The food and beverages is very, very reasonable. Not as cheap as, say, Poland maybe for the food, but beer is cheaper than water in Prague. The history and the culture of the place make Prague worth visiting in and of itself. So if you like your history and you like your culture, then definitely check Prague out. And there are a lot of different activities you could do apart from the art galleries and museums. You could go shoot some guns. For example, you could go to Ranger. They've got an indoor shooting range pretty close to the city centre in Prague too. So that's a good one to check out. And next, onto the cons. What are the cons? Well, Prague does attract a lot of stag parties and quote-unquote lads on tour. You're going to have to differentiate yourself from these guys. Women might have their defences up ever so slightly just because want to know who they're dealing with. So just be prepared for that. It's not a massive hindrance, it's just an initial reaction, and people are very friendly, girls are very friendly, but you're just going to have to make it very clear that you're not there with a group of lads and you're not there as some kind of seedy sex tourist. And so Prague also has a reputation of being a pickpocket place, which I didn't see, but it has that reputation, and it might be true even though nothing happened to me. But you know, it's a city like Barcelona or any other city like that. People might be slightly wary of others until you make it clear what your intentions are, so just keep that in mind. It's a bit different to the Nordic countries where it's more trusting and there isn't that issue of pickpocketers. The accommodation is okay, the prices are okay, but it's not super cheap. It's not Poland, it's not Estonia, it's not Latvia. A little bit cheaper than, say, London or Oslo or New York or somewhere like that, or Paris. I would say the accommodation is on par with, say, Stockholm or somewhere like that. So it's not super cheap, it's not super expensive, it's kind of a normal city in that sense. And also Prague can get fairly overcrowded in certain areas, so avoid the most crowded areas, you'll be fine if you're trying to meet girls. Even if you're not there during the peak season, you're going to have to be aware of certain areas, the most touristy areas. I recommend giving Prague a visit and seeing what you think of the city for yourself.